Well, hello. Welcome to Conscious Business Talks, and I am stoked to be here with you today. Why? Because it's Thursday, we're together. Why wouldn't I be? Okay, so you know what? Let's talk about something that has my thoughts percolating. And Vicky, my love, I don't know if you're here, but check out what I've got. Can you see it? That mug is literally the coffee lover's dream. So I had to hold it up because if you're watching, then I know you're going to appreciate all the coffee options right there. Okay, so what's perking or what's got my thoughts sparking? It's actually something that's the contrary, the flow and the momentum and the movement that gets us all so happy and juiced up. Yeah, it's literally the opposite of that. When you find that despite the feeling of movement, there are defaults that you have in place, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because imagine doing things, having to think about every single thing, right? We don't have time for that. Our brain, our lives don't have capacity for that. So there are things that automatically just use certain defaults. The thing is, when we're not aware of the defaults that we are using, and then the part that got me thinking, whose defaults? Ours, because we kind of started using something and it was working well, so we continued to use it. Now we don't want to think about it unless we want to revisit it, and that's cool. Or is it defaults that other people kind of put around us, or we got something and inherited them, or we absorbed them through whatever was there? It's like, getting your phone, and there are certain apps that just go on the front page by default, right? And we kind of just go, I may change that. But how many people never end up changing it? So they just stay, right? Because it takes attention and time and you having to think about it to actually go and change it. So that got me thinking, okay, defaults and autopilots. How much of my life, personal and professional, my business, how many things are there that are stuck on autopilot, and are they serving me the way they are? Or do I need to go revisit them and think about, is it time to be intentional, aware, and choosing what goes on autopilot and for how long, right? So that's the part I'm thinking about. And because, again, could be the RAS, that reticular activating system, or it could just be that coincidence, but I don't really believe in coincidence that much. Most of the time, there are things that are coming your way because your attention is there. And now, when something similar shows up, you're like, I'm paying attention. So I was listening. I've got this book before. I've even borrowed it from the library. I have returned it. Actually, full disclosure, I have borrowed it, not got to it, and returned it unread, or maybe just read a few pages. And it's not because I don't like what's in there. I love it. It's just that sometimes I've got a lot on my plate and I'm like, okay, I didn't get to it this time. I'll borrow it again when I'm ready for it. And hey, Vicky, I am so happy you're here. And I see, this is just worth repeating. Guess what I've got in your honor? Can you see it? I figured you would appreciate this. Espresso, not quite coffee. I think I've got one upstairs that says cappuccino or something, but this one, I'm like, yeah, okay, we got to share this moment. Okay, so autopilots and defaults. and how long do we leave things on default? How did we get them? Did we inherit those defaults? And is it time to revisit and kind of see, are things flowing the way we want? And if not, is it possible there's some things on autopilot that are literally taking that, contributing to things flowing the way they are, right? So there is this part of me that just gets irked when I think that whatever I have on autopilot, or I'm using it as a default just to save some mental space and energy, whether I put it there, and if I didn't, who did? Whose system did I inherit? And is it serving me and the people I love, right? Because me living this life attached to, what I like to do, who I like to do it with, and where am I doing it with them, right? Okay, that could totally just not, you know what I mean. Cool people to hang out with, come up with creative ideas, come up with things that we can bring into this world as our creation to add value to somebody else's life. And where is the fun, cool, amazing place we can actually gather together to do it, right? That's like, that just, somebody asked me, what do you want to do? That's my ideal thing. The freedom to be able to choose that, the freedom to be able to do that. And yeah, that default thing really rankled with that, okay, cool. I gotta think about this a little bit more. And Matt, that's a good question. So is it possible to leave parts of your mind on an effective autopilot while focusing on other things? Is this merely multitasking under a different name? Ooh, good question. Now, there is so much in our even in our body that's on autopilot, right? I don't consciously think about breathing. Thankfully, my subconscious, my body, my whole design takes care of a lot of things I'm not consciously aware of, right? So it's not a bad thing to have things on autopilot. My whole point of introducing it is that we need to kind of think about where things are perhaps not working quite as smoothly, or perhaps we keep on bumping against the same lessons, or we are coming up against the same trials in our business life or personal life. And the ability to bring attention on, I use this for my banner, right? If you're looking at your calendar, and whether you are running the business or you're working in somebody else's business, when you look at your calendar, and a lot of the things on there are not things that you put there, but they're just the way things are working. So those meetings are standard, right? Those things, they just happen. And maybe everybody assumes that if we're setting up a meeting, it's like for 30 minutes, right? Or an hour. Oh, that particular meeting, that marketing one, yeah, always 45 minutes. Even if what you really want to just, right? That is what I'm saying. Take a look at your day, take a look at your week, take a look at your month, however you're planning, whatever your planning system is, and take a look to kind of say, how much of this is by a design that serves me? And it's okay to leave certain things. Once you've got them working, put them on autopilot, because you don't need to keep using the same brain space, to think about something that's already working well. But how long do you choose to leave it on autopilot, right? When do you revisit it and say, I was here, now we have kind of gone to here, and the same systems and the processes we're kind of using, do we need to look at this and say, is this still serving us, right? So part of it becomes like that well-oiled machine that runs, but that also does not mean that you don't come and take a look at certain things to say, are they still working well? Or that's at least how I'm looking at it, right? And as I was saying, certain other things pop up. So as I was having dinner, this book that I was talking to you about, it's by Dr. Wayne Dyer. It's called Excuses Be Gone. And it's the title itself attracted me, right? Because I'm like, oh, excuses. Because how many times have you guys ever heard this, that when you when you argue for your limitations, or when you justify your limitations, you get to keep them? It blew my mind when I listened to it, and I'm like, so true, so true. Okay, am I doing that? Let's keep checking. But the part about this book, the title and the premise that caught my attention was excuses. How many times do we come up with that? Because it doesn't feel good to kind of say, oh, well, see, I totally, yeah, that was me. or because you really don't, it's going to take work to change whatever it is you're doing, and you're really not there yet, or don't want to, or whatever, and it's like, but see, that I inherited, or I've been doing it for like flipping 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is. So it's really hard for me to change that. Or fast one, it's my genes. That's the standing discussion that my dad and I will come to as we kind of grapple with his healthcare. And I'm like, okay, let's try this. And he's like, no, that's just my genes. And I'm like, dude, okay, with my background, I know that certain things are, I'm not arguing that there isn't a genetic component to certain things. It's just, what I'm saying is that all it is a weak link, right? So if you don't do certain things, that weak link may come up. If I take just the wellness, the fitness, the all the knowledge that I've kind of taken from the health and well-being part of things, that's what pops up, right? And then there's also what Dr. Dyer was talking about. Hey, Few, it is so great to see you. I had to just say hello because I love the fact that you're here. Hey, welcome. And oh gosh, Vicky, yeah, me too. I love this, man. I think it's just, sometimes it just opens up your way of thinking to a level that you were perhaps not quite there, right? Or it's like opening a door and now you are looking at it and going, oh, look at all the cool things that are just possibilities for me to consider now that I'm looking here, right? But anyway, so this Excuses Be Gone book, he was talking about our tendency to kind of think, oh, this is either a genetic thing, or this is a habitual thing, or things you don't even like consciously think about, but things that you grew up with, so you just have them on your subconscious autopilot, and that's ruling the choices that you're making, right? The decisions you make, you don't even know what program is running on autopilot, and those are the defaults that you are automatically drawing from as you make your day-to-day decisions. So that's the part that I was like, okay, it's not sitting well with me that my calendar, if I'm looking at my day and most things on it are not my conscious design necessarily, but something that is happening because somebody else's design is at play, right? And on particular days, like especially these days, I say that with a lot of compassion and a lot of understanding, because a lot of things on my calendar these days are not necessarily by my choice or design. They're there because of my choice to look after and take care of and support things that are needed for my dad's health and care, right? Mm-hmm. So it irks me that my prime working time, the phone rings and it's literally saying anonymous, which normally would mean it's going to voicemail. I'm picking it up, and those interruptions are there is, it's like little leaks in a boat, right? It keeps on taxing my ability to focus, my ability to do dedicated, very deep work. And so I'm aware that there are things that may be there and they're not by your design, but they're still by your choice, because I still made that choice. That based on my values, based on what I say is important to me, based on what I believe is important to me, and what is a large component of why I do what I do, I cannot not look after this man that I love, right? So, however, that itself then becomes open to that attention, going, how much of it now can I structure in a way that not just other things or other people's whims or design or their preferences or whatever is important to them is showing up, but, and when is it convenient to them, right? Because it doesn't matter how many times I requested that, please, I am best available during this time. I would love to talk to you, but can we just make it through this window? And it's not a narrow window. I'm respectful of the time that things come up in healthcare and hospitals and doctors' offices. I totally get that. So it's not a tiny window, but I've literally said, okay, well, can we do that? And invariably, it shows up outside that window. And I'm like, okay. So what I'm saying, with that compassion and kindness and acknowledgement still in place, is you can still make sure that what is important to you, what is tied to your own purpose, which is tied to the promises that you have made to yourself and to other people who are attached to your life, whether they're your business partners or they're your teammates or they're family members, they're your clients, or they're your suppliers, whoever they are. But whatever it is, there definitely is the honoring of that needs to go on that as well. And that can only happen when you become intentional about looking at what's playing in the background as your default, that you're just accepting because life is busy and you're just going full steam, and how much of it can you then change to serve you better by bringing your attention to it, right? Okay, let me take a look at the comments, because I love looking at comments. And Vicky says, yes, that could be stressful to have other people's agendas video calendar, 100%. Oh my God. Because I'm like, this was me. Like, I know there's a problem when I am running around so busy and I'm saying, oh, I'm so busy. Automatic red flag. Why am I so busy? I like things simple. So whenever things are that busy that I'm running full tilt one thing to another, we got to bring some attention and focus on to what's really going on. And Robin, all the research shows how lots of our genes can be modified. Oh my gosh, right? I was reading Dr. Bruce Lipton's research, and I still remember looking at those words and having to kind of step back a little bit with big eyes, neurons firing everywhere, and kind of just going, holy crap, for real? And then I had to read it again because I'm like, that changes everything. And I don't, when you're thinking about, and I know a lot more people are comfortable, thankfully so, about quantum physics and how, things work. Just, when you work with either, when you're working with physics and when you're working with waves and when you're working with frequencies, I know that people in that realm tend to get it. But now people are becoming open to the possibility that there is something that is bigger than what we see, right? What we perceive with certain senses. And I just think it is just the coolest thing that when you start talking about being able to consider things as changeable that we thought were unchangeable. I remember reading about brain research, and when it changed, right? The idea that all these really renowned names, these amazing physicians and scientists and all these guys, neurosurgeons, like everybody kind of thought your brain was fixed. Whatever you got when you were born, this was it. You were stuck with it. And then when the idea and the realization came through empirical evidence that no, there's this funky little concept of neuroelasticity and plasticity, and the brain is this incredible thing that will route its functions even when the area of the brain that we think was responsible for certain things is either heavily damaged or even just isn't even there anymore, right? Like mind-blowing. But anyways, yes, exactly. Just brain was rigid and non-flexible, and people were either smart or they were stupid, or just not quite as swift, right? And too bad, that person, or there was an accident and now that's just their lot. No, so cool to kind of think that's not how things work. Yes, I love his work too. I think it's the coolest thing. Prioritize your personal values. Robin, I love that, because it's kind of funny, right? When you deal with numbers, when I look at numbers and I associate, and I'm talking about business results with people, a lot of it tends to be like, oh well, see, yeah, but the other, what are you talking about, right? Values in business. But the way you show up in one aspect of your life, I tend to find that you show up in that way in other areas and aspects of your life, right? And I am very much of the thought, and I know you know this, and I know you believe this as well, and that's why you're here, that your business isn't all of your life. Your business is a big, important part of your life, but not all of your life. So that really means is, to me, what that means is that the way I want to show up in my life is how I show up in my business. The values that are important to me as a human being, and the values that are important to me professionally, are also aspects of my life, right? So why would I not want my business to reflect that? That's just how I tend to think about it, right? Okay, so the thought that I want to leave you with as we, hey, by the way, did you guys notice the change? If you didn't, so I'm always like playing with what cool people can do and what changes we can make. And I'm totally fine with going with minimum viable solutions for the most part. But my intro music and my intro graphic is different. And I was like, oh, cool. Today, on August the 26th, we get to play with a different version of it. It is so totally minimum viable because, okay, I'm just not even going to say what's missing, but something's missing. But we were going live with it today. And if you're watching on YouTube, and you think this thought could spark something of benefit in somebody else, or if you're on Facebook or any other medium that you're listening it on, share this with somebody. Maybe subscribe, hit that like button, do whatever, but get the word out, because this whole thought about autopilots and defaults that are running in the back and whether or not they're serving us powerfully really got my thoughts flowing. And whatever shows up in that way that allows you to bring the right attention on the things that matter cannot but help benefit you in both your personal life and your business life, right? So gotta share that. I am so honored that you're here with me on this fabulous Thursday night. And I'll see you next Thursday at 8:30 Eastern. That would be 6:30 Mountain Time. And that's Friday, I think 10:30 Australian time. I should know this by heart by now, but for some reason I'm dealing with so many time zones that sometimes I forget. So on that note, see if you can spot the difference. And here's some music for you.